every once in a while, a player comes in and changes how the entire sport of basketball is being played. Steph Curry did that with his shooting, now Nikola Jokic is doing it with his playmaking.
Behind the back to Watson! Wow.
In this video, I'll tell you exactly how a second-round pick from Serbia changed not just the NBA, but how centers around the world are being developed. To rewind a bit, before Jokic showed up, the NBA was already deep into one of the biggest stylistic shifts we've ever seen. The Golden State Warriors, or more specifically Steph Curry, had just reshaped the entire sport around spacing, shooting, and pace. The Curry revolution pushed the game further and further away from the basket. Teams built their whole identity around threes, switching everything on defense and trying to outmath their opponents. And for a while, that felt like the final form of modern basketball. Meanwhile, centers were becoming more and more limited in how teams used them. You were either a rim runner who protected the paint and set screens, or a stretch big who spaced the floor just enough to survive next to three guards. That was the job description. Nobody was asking their center to run the offense, make every read, and be the best passer on the team. Honestly, if you described Jokic in 2015, slow, bound to the ground, and not a rim protector who plays mostly in the post, he was exactly the kind of center teams were moving away from. And that's what makes his rise so fascinating. He didn't fit the era at all and definitely didn't look like someone who would break the switch-heavy system that dominated the league. But that's exactly what he did. A second-round pick behind Jusuf Nurkic on the depth chart was just trying to survive at first. But even in those early minutes, the flashes were impossible to ignore. The weird cross-court passes, the touch around the rim, and most importantly, the way Denver's offense suddenly ignited when the ball touched his hands. Slowly, the Nuggets started noticing something. Every single lineup looked better with Jokic on the floor. The real turning point came when Michael Malone made a pretty bold decision for that time. He gave Jokic the keys. Denver built around what he naturally did best by putting shooters and cutters around him, this way simplifying things for everyone else. And once they committed, everything changed. While other teams were trying to find the next great guard to break down switching defenses, Denver realized they already had the perfect counter. A center who could think faster than anyone standing in front of him. A center who didn't just run the offense, he was the offense, giving birth to what we now call Jokic-ball. At its core, Jokic-ball is built around three things: spacing, cutting, and dribble handoffs. Nothing complicated, but the way Denver uses these actions and how perfectly they fit Jokic's strengths is what makes the whole thing impossible to guard. Start with the spacing. Denver stretches the floor in a 5-out or a 4-out 1-in shell where Jokic is the 1-in, except he's not in the dunker spot. He's either at the elbow or the nail or the top of the key. By pulling the opposing center away from the rim, the Nuggets create massive cutting lanes behind the defense. And because Jokic sees the entire floor, those cuts become automatic. Let's say Aaron Gordon cuts, wings lift from the center, Murray dances around the top, and Jokic reads all of it in real time. Then you have dribble handoffs, or DHOs for short. Denver runs more DHOs with Jokic than anyone else in the league, and it's almost unfair. If the defender goes over the top, Murray, Brown, or any of the other guards get downhill. If he goes under, they get an open shot. If the big switches, Jokic seals the guard instantly and Denver gets a free layup. There's no perfect coverage because Jokic takes whatever the defense gives and punishes it in the most efficient way possible. And the scary part is that teams know exactly what's coming. Jokic at the elbow, guard coming around, shooter in the corner, same action working over and over again. The third core thing that Denver uses are inverted pick and rolls, meaning Jokic is the one handling the rock and the guard is the one screening. You can't switch because then a guard has to defend Jokic one-on-one. You can't drop because Jokic has become a volume 3-point shooter and has the best touch shot in the league. And you can't blitz because he'll find the open man instantly. The NBA's entire switch-heavy era designed to stop ball-dominant guards falls apart when the best passer on the court is 6'11" and is standing at the top of the key. And the last one is kind of a detail, but it's how Jokic manipulates weak side defenders. He shifts defenders with his eyes, uses ball fakes to freeze helpers, and creates angles most players don't even couldn't see. Denver's cuts look like they're perfectly choreographed, but a lot of them are simply reactions to whatever Jokic is seeing in real time. This is why the system works. Not because it's some genius playbook, but because Jokic simplifies every read, every switch, and every rotation until defenses eventually break. And once Denver realized that, everything else fell into place. Now, at some point, every defense in the NBA has tried something against Jokic. Switch, drop, blitz, zone, front the post, send doubles early, send doubles late, you name it. Teams have thrown it at him. And the problem is that none of it works consistently. There's no coverage that takes him out of the game. There's no matchup that shuts him down. And even when teams succeed for a possession or two, it never really lasts. That's why he's getting praised in ways you rarely hear. LeBron and Steve Nash came to the conclusion that he's the most complete offensive player ever.
This goddamn Joker guy, man, what? He's shooting like, did they say in like the last 5 or 6 games, he's shooting like 77% from the field?
Let me ask you this, is he the best offensive player you've ever played against?
Yeah, it's a lot. I will say this, there has not been a more dominant, complete player that I've played against him.
And once Denver proved that they can build an elite offense through a playmaking center, a lot of teams around the league started to look for ways to replicate that model. They weren't trying to clone Jokic because obviously that's impossible, but they were trying absolutely everything to borrow pieces from the ecosystem Denver created around him. You could see this shift almost immediately in how coaches rewired their offenses to include more elbow touches, more handoffs, and more possessions where their center functioned as a decision maker rather than just a finisher. The first name that always comes to mind is Alperen Sengun. The Baby Jokic nickname exists because he has some of the same foundations: touch, creativity, footwork, and the willingness to orchestrate from the elbows and the top of the floor. Houston regularly uses him in dribble handoffs, inverted pick and roll setups, and sequences where the offense simply flows through him as a decision maker. Of course, Sengun still has a long way to go in terms of Jokic level processing and vision, everyone does really, but stylistically he's the clearest modern example of a big shaping offense through playmaking. Next is Domantas Sabonis, who in many ways resembles a modern evolution of the playmaking instincts his father Arvydas once showed. Without my fellow Lithuanian, Sacramento's offense simply collapses. Their entire playbook is built around those DHOs, short roll playmaking, and a flow offense where Sabonis acts as the central hub. Their spacing, their timing, their backdoor cuts, all of it hinges on his ability to facilitate from the middle of the floor. Purely in terms of structure and usage, he might be even closer to Jokic-like engine than Sengun is. Derik Queen, who we just made a video on and you should check it out after this one, is almost like an American version of Jokic in the making. The New Orleans Pelicans look noticeably more dynamic and more unpredictable when he's on the floor. And a big reason for that is how boldly they use him as a creator. They often run inverted pick and rolls with Queen as the ball handler and Zion Williamson as the screener. Queen also creates from the high post, both elbows, and has a steady diet of DHOs. All hallmarks of Jokic-inspired playmaking big. I'll leave the video on this guy specifically in the end screen and the description. Now, a player who doesn't get mentioned nearly enough is Isaiah Hartenstein, and yet he's one of the key reasons why Oklahoma City took a leap. While Hartenstein brings many other strengths, his ability to act as a secondary creator is underrated. When he's on the floor, a surprising number of Thunder possessions run through him within those same Jokic-ball actions. Even without three-point shooting, which removes the possibility of a true 5-out spacing, Hartenstein makes it work because OKC's movement is just elite. He lightens the creation load on their guards and generates easy points simply by processing the action at a very high level. And we also have players who just came in like Young Hansen, who are yet to show their playmaking skills on the NBA level, but the influence from Jokic is huge there as well. A 7'1" center from China drafted by Portland who came into the league with that Chinese Jokic label. Right now, it's still mostly potential. The fouls, the decision making under pressure, the defense in space all need a lot of time. But the fact that a raw big from the Chinese Basketball Association was developed as a connector and creator, not not just as a screener and roller says everything. And the biggest impact is how coaches are developing the next generation of centers. College programs and European academies have shifted their priorities noticeably over the last 5 years. The bigs are being taught actions that used to belong exclusively to guards. A player like Robbie Avila, who doesn't fit the usual NBA athlete profile, still draws real attention because he passes, processes the floor, and can run offenses from the elbows. Rienk Mast at Nebraska and Coleman Hawkins at Illinois fit the same pattern. Centers who add value not with verticality, but with their feel. So looking at all these guys in the league right now and the ones coming up, I don't think it's too early to say that Nikola Jokic didn't just become the best player in the NBA. He became a model for what teams are now trying to build around. But hey, now it's your turn to let me know what you think. Do you see this era of Jokic-ball lasting long? And in the first place, would you even put him in the same category of revolutionary players like Steph Curry? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. And as always, subscribe for more NBA takes through an overseas lens.